I'd like to call this meeting of the Elkhorn Common Council to order. Will you please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance?
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call, please.
Tim Schroeder,
Here.
Peter Harvey,
Here.
Gary Payson Jr.,
Here.
Ron Dunwoody,
Here.
Scott McClory,
Here.
Ken Minell,
Here.
Kurt Harkness.
Here. I'd like to open up public comment. Do we have anyone here that would wish to be heard for public comment? Asking again. Seeing no one, we'll move on. Consent agenda. We've got the council meeting minutes of February 3rd, 2025.
I'll make the motion to approve those minutes.
Second. Got a motion and a second. Any changes or anything?
I'd like to request that we move item 8A up to number 7, so they don't have to sit through the Bray Architect discussion and they can get back to work.
Absolutely. Sounds good. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The minutes are approved, and we've got bills payable in the amount of $3,245,602.06.
Make a motion to approve that.
I'll second.
We've got a motion and a second to approve the bills in the amount stated. Any discussion? A roll call, please.
Peter Harvey,
Yes.
Scott McClory,
Yes.
Gary Payson Jr.,
Yes.
Ron Dunwoody,
Yes.
Ken Minell,
Yes.
Kurt Harkness.
Yes.
Okay, now we'll move to the mayor's report. I'd just like to thank Matt and all his crew for the snow removal. I think they did a fine job. We had a couple storms last week, so congratulations. Good job. And then we've got the swearing in of 3 new members of the Elkhorn Fire Department, Jordan Gottschalk, Christian Stubes, and Zachary Petroff. If you'll come up, and the attorney will swear you in. You have your copies? Good. You want, yeah, just come up, stand right here. How about?
Hi. Okay, if you'll raise your right hand and then repeat after me. I, and state your name,
Zachary Petroff.
do solemnly swear that I will support the Constitution of the United States of America
Do solemnly swear that I will support the Constitution of the United States of America
and the state of Wisconsin.
and the state of Wisconsin.
I will support those who I serve with
I will support those who I serve with
and those who I am sworn to protect.
and those who I am sworn to protect.
I will faithfully and impartially, without reservation,
I will-
discharge my duties
I will faithfully and impartially, without reservation, discharge my duties
as, and state your rank,
as a firefighter EMT
of the Elkhorn Area Fire Department under the appointing of the department.
of the Elkhorn Area Fire Department under the appointing of the department
And according to the laws of the state of Wisconsin,
and according to the laws of the state of Wisconsin,
to the best of my skills and abilities.
to the best of my skills and abilities.
I accept this self-imposed and self-enforced obligation
I accept this self-imposed and self-enforced obligation
as my responsibility and make these promises freely,
as my responsibility and make these promises freely,
without mental reservations or purposes of evasion.
without mental reservations or purposes of evasion.
And I will well and faithfully discharge the duties of the office upon which I am about to enter, so help me God.
And I will well and faithfully discharge the duties of the office upon which I am about to enter, so help me God.
Congratulations.
I think we'll move on with the administrator's report here, so I don't get confused on the agenda. So you're up, Adam.
And if any members of the audience want to leave, you're welcome to, don't stick around on my account. Yeah, just some updates. We got one, our new water superintendent, Nate Steffen, is starting next Monday. Nate worked for the city previously in the water department and will be coming back. Uh, Water customers are going to be receiving some letters from the water department if they have lead services, inviting them to participate in a lead testing program that is now mandated by the EPA. Um, We did get some additional information earlier this week from Waste Management about the solid waste fund and the charges. They did admit that they overbilled the city by at least 700 tons in 2023, and will be giving us a refund of $29,000. We're still questioning their calculation of the 700. We think it should be closer to 1,000 based upon the pre and post tonnage numbers we have, but at least they've acknowledged an overbilling and that we will be at least getting a refund of almost $30,000, so that's good. On Friday, and hopefully I'm not stealing Katie's thunder, but on Friday, there's going to be a hearing about the band shell before the Wisconsin Historical Society Board that would designate it as a site of state and national significance. This is important for future grant funding for the city to get grant funding for that rehab of the band shell. And then Matt, I know you're hosting a informational meeting on Westward Drive on March 4th.
Correct. Yep. We just sent out letters to residents yesterday. They went out.
And then I just wanted to turn to Rebecca. Do you have an election update, Rebecca?
Yes, so we had 225 absentee ballots cast, and in total 538. So it was a pretty good outcome for a small election.
And just to close the loop on that, I want to commend Rebecca and the new deputy state clerk, Amber Shellman, as well. I know Rebecca's been doing a great job training the new deputy clerk to be able to step in case Rebecca's unavailable. So thank you, Rebecca, and thank you, Amber. I know she's not here, but so that's it for me, Mayor.
Okay. Thank you, Adam. Next, we have a presentation from Nate Constantine, delivery team leader for Bray Architects.
Good evening.
Nate.
I think we're going to try this cord and see how it goes. And if we're not going to let the flickering occur tonight, if I need to move, I may move. But hopefully we should be good.
Hopefully, keep my fingers crossed.
Well, again, good evening, and thank you for having me back tonight. So as your agenda states, there's going to be 3 topics regarding the presentation, and then we'll have time for questions at the end. The 3 topics are going to be a review of the full analysis of the existing facility study, just a quick recap on the discussion we had last month regarding the NFPA 1710 compliance, and then some recommendations from Bray based off of our findings thus far. So as far as the existing facility study goes, I think it's important to just understand the process in which we undergo our work. And so this slide identifies that we rank things in a good, fair, and poor analysis. Good is a like new or a new situation, no replacement required. A fair analysis occurs with some visual damage, may need some repairs. No immediate replacement is required, but will be due, I would say, in maybe let's just call it 10 to 15 years, if not sooner, maybe 5, depending on what the topic we're talking about. And then a poor situation is something that is in need of repair, could be potentially a potential asbestos situation, and in is need of replacement. So as we go through the next several slides, you'll see things that are colored in that greenish blue, the light green, and the reddish orange. That's related to, again, the good, fair, and poor. So just to recap, the existing facility is roughly about 14,400 square feet. Just as a comparison, a new facility of like spaces that would be required for a fire department of your size would be just shy of 19,000 square feet. So the current fire department is operating in less than ideal situations. They're making things work. So for example, some of the images on the slide We're going to talk about the apparatus bay floor, but you can see some of the damage that has occurred there over the years. The top right image identifies kind of temporary offices or temporary enclosures by putting up, kind of partition walls to about 6 feet. Those are movable and obviously not soundproof. If you look at the middle photo on the right, you're seeing kind of the kitchen setup where you can imagine 2 to 3 shifts of fire personnel sharing space, sharing supplies, things like that, and operating in that area. And then the bottom right photo identifies in the far background of that photo some of the sleeping area, but also right next to the day room. So as we discussed last month, the ability for maybe someone trying to catch a quick piece of shut-eye, while they can, versus somebody who may not be ready, to like call it a night and just needs a spot to kind of relax for 10 minutes before they're ready. I mean, they're operating in kind of one common space, and really in new facilities or even facilities less than 10 years old, right? Those are separate spaces, creating. I mean, these guys and gals are working, around the clock, in most situations. So accommodating them in some of those situations is typical in a fire department setting. We're going to touch on a few aspects of the facility study itself. We're not going to go through every page at some of the requests here, so I'm going to touch on a few items, and then I will do a summary of the entire facility study at the end. So starting on the site side of things, we touched on this last month, but I think it's helpful just to identify again that the south side of the facility and the item number 2, kind of on the east side, in green, that's considering fair to good condition since that parking lot was recently just replaced. Whereas the west side of the facility and the north side has a fair amount of damage, does need to be replaced, and actually the apron, the connectivity from the apparatus bay out to the street is too steep, in which it is causing damage to fire engines and fire apparatus. So I think there's probably many stories of maybe how that happened and why that happened. But as far as the situation at Bay, I mean, I believe there's several vehicles that have been damaged due to the steepness of that grade. Engineering reports, these are similar to last month. I'm not going to go line by line, but you can see some good, some fair condition, and some poor condition on the plumbing side. Your good conditions primarily around the water heater and circulation pumps, as those are relatively new. You have some piping that does need to be replaced just because it's original to the building. And a couple of the other poor items on this slide related to showers and garage sinks, just not up to ADA or up to current building codes. On the HVAC side of things, unfortunately, some bad news on this one. I mean, it's basically an HVAC overhaul at this point. The exhaust is not adequate. Your cooling, your heating does need to be replaced. Does not meet current codes. So, I mean, your boiler plant 2019, that's still in fair condition. If you continue to operate in this facility and were to continue to operate it for years to come, your boilers are fine. But as far as your makeup air units, your rooftops, your air handling units, those are well beyond their expected lifespan and will be challenging to replace and repair down the road. On the electrical side of things, specifically on the electrical service side of things, fairly good condition on this one. However, we do flag interior lighting as poor. We don't specify, nor I think it's rather challenging to buy fluorescent fixtures nowadays. So the minute we see fluorescent fixtures, we do flag that as a poor condition, as everything from an energy efficiency standpoint, replacement side of things is going towards LEDs. So that's the one kind of major point that's coming out as poor. And then just there are some issues with some existing circuits that are currently overloaded and do need to be rewired. So those are a couple of the poor items jumping out there. Data cabling, exterior lighting, all in really pretty good shape. And the U-Service board and switchboard have been upgraded. So there are some positives on the electrical service side of things. Life safety, however, the emergency egress lighting, they're really kind of isn't one. There is not a fire alarm system that's adequate for the building. That's a bit jumping out given the fact that we're talking about a fire station here. And then the generator, the reason why it's kind of mixed as a fair/poor condition is that it runs perfectly fine. It can do what you need it to do today. If the power goes out, it'll kick on and you'll be good to go. However, if you have any alterations or if you do any expansions, the generator would have to be replaced. You can no longer get parts for the generator, and it just would not be basically able for any sort of expansion or additional load added to the current generator. So that's why it's both considered fair and poor. Jumping back to the exterior, we are seeing some things that do need to be addressed. Some of it is related to the separated garage with some of the brick pulling apart. Other parts are part of the main facility as far as some of the brick corrosion underneath windows. Many of the piers outside of the main apparatus bay entry do need some addressing, and some rust going on when it comes to lintels, bollards, things like that. So a mixed bag of fair and poor here, but just a quick recap on just the exterior shell of the building. On the contrary, on the inside of the building, a lot of this is actually in fairly good shape. The team has taken a good care of the existing facility on the inside. There are some split concrete blocks, so you're seeing that jump out as poor. You're seeing some of the wood benches flagging up as poor, specific to some of the locker rooms, some tile issues, some miscellaneous rubber base. But from having done this process many times, usually this floor plan is riddled with red all over it. For the amount of the square footage that you're dealing with here, and I would say only about a dozen bubbles on there, this is actually fairly well as far as the interior shape goes of the facility. So as we look at the existing facility as a whole, and again, I didn't go through every single line item. The facility study as a whole, I believe, was provided as part of your packet tonight, where you can see each category with its own level of detail similar to that. And I'm happy to answer any questions related to that. But we do provide an overall breakdown of the existing facility study. So you can see here, good is in the left column, fair is in the middle column, and poor is on the right. I think, unfortunately, we're seeing quite a bit in the poor side of things. There's a decent amount in fair condition, and probably not as much as we had hoped to see in the good condition as far as the existing facility goes. Accessibility, well, I'll start at the top. Ceilings, it's kind of a mixed bag. I think you have a decent set of ceilings. That can be a bit skewed because your apparatus bay is your steel deck, right? So your steel deck is in fine shape. Flooring, 74% in poor condition. I believe there was a flood or some sort of water leak that had caused a bunch of the flooring damage in the facility. So that's why you're seeing that. And then the apparatus bay floor that needs to completely be redone. That's why you're seeing about 74% be poor on that side of things. Your exterior doors, you have, I believe, 2 or 3 apparatus bay doors that the team has had out there to get fixed, get addressed, and multiple service calls, and they just have not been able to correct them as far as the motor not going up on the right time, and not closing properly, etc. So when these things start to add up, we're seeing about 60% poor on the exterior doors. Windows, there's not a lot on the facility, so if you go into the facility study, the reason why you're seeing the number jump up there is just due to the lack of windows kind of in the facility. Give or take about 70% there. Roof analysis, although we don't have any roof reports from a third-party vendor, we've checked in with Public Works and the facility themselves, and the roof has not been replaced in the last 20 years to knowledge, and therefore everything's out of warranty, and I believe the facility, the team at the fire department has noted that they do have several leaks in various areas on the building. So that is why you're seeing roofs at 100% poor. Accessibility, there are some good things that are working for the facility, but a bit of a mixed bag there. We talked about plumbing, mechanical, and electrical, and life safety. So there's more to this. There's a summary on your left so that if you have the full facility study, would encourage you to take a look through there. But you'll see coming up in the recommendation that there does need to be something done at the facility, and that'll be part of the recommendation this evening. So as we shift on, I do want to just give a recap to City Council as well as anyone in the audience that maybe was not here last month on the NFPA 1710 compliance. Given that we did go through this last month, I won't go line by line, but NFPA 1710 is the governing agent that helps identify ratings associated to ISO. ISO is related to insurance rates for property owners. Your current ISO rating within the municipal boundary is a 3, which is relatively good. 1 is a high, 10 is not where you want to be. And outside the municipal boundary, your rating is a 5. 5 is not necessarily bad. You're obviously right in the middle. But part of that ISO rating is that I believe that there is an outdated fire engine sitting just north of Geneva National in a county-owned property, which is helping with that ISO rating. And when ISO comes back through, that will most likely be reevaluated, just as far as how that affects the ISO rating. We can get kind of more into those details perhaps at the end. But just noteworthy that because of an engine parked down there, not necessarily staffed, is helping the ISO rating currently. One thing, sorry, I'll go back for a quick second. The goal on that FPA 1710 requirement is that we can have a response time from station to call to location of the call in 5 minutes and 20 seconds. So as a recap, your current travel time based off your existing facility serves about 98.9% of municipal addresses, which is good. However, when we look at your total primary response area, which is in the light green on the screen, and then the secondary response areas, which are in darker green, you're only serving 47.4% of your primary service area. I believe yourself as well as the fire department is proud that you serve 100 square miles, and that's obviously a great feat. But as far as how we comply with NFPA 1710, there's a requirement, I believe, of, let me go back here, meeting 90% of all dispatched incidents, incidents, to only serve 47.4 does have us falling a bit short. So just as a reminder, we worked with the fire department and with Public Works to identify city-owned properties that were 3 acres or larger when doing a time study analysis. So we looked at a single new station just north of town, thinking that if we got outside of downtown Elkhorn, that would improve the time study data. However, moving it, give or take, 2 minutes north of and outside of downtown, actually reduced the amount of addresses served down to 43.7%. So we continued to study, and as we did that, just a quick recap of the current fire station location at 47.4, and then the potential new station at County Highway 12 and Harvest Way, just as a generic intersection, does serve less folks. Then as far as the next step was to study a site on the north side of town and a site on the south side of town. For intenses just of understanding kind of where we could serve, we picked a location near Evergreen Drive and Highway 12, and then a location at Morrissey Drive and Highway 67. You can see the analysis of the southern location is in yellow, the northern location is in that reddish orange, and then the true orange is kind of the overlap of those two spaces. By looking at potentially 2 stations, just hypothetically, it does bump the addresses served up to 61%, but felt like that was still far short of the NFPA 1710 requirement of 90%. So we took it another step forward and looked at what it would be to use the current site, given that it does address 98.9% of your current city residents, and then an area up on Highway 12 and County Road A, and then one on the south side of town near Palmer and Petrie. The thought there was, although these are not city-owned properties, that we are now getting into the primary response areas where there are heavy residents kind of grouped together, right? We're trying to identify locations where there's a large cluster of housing. This did, looking at all three locations, bump the addresses served up to 83.4%. This is where we paused on the NFPA 1710 analysis. I think as mentioned last month, a fourth station would likely get you over the 90% threshold that NFPA 1710 is looking for. The NFPA and how it relates to the ISO ratings, I am not an ISO agent and I am not an insurance person. However, I would say that if you got up in the 83%, your service area would probably be in that 3 or better, right? I think to get up above 90% is hoping that everybody in that area would now be getting in that ISO 1 or 2 rating. So I think at this point in time, I don't, as I mentioned last month, I don't think I was anticipating, or we were anticipating talking about 3 fire station locations. So talking about a fourth seemed just kind of way out there. It's definitely something that the city and the fire department can study going forward, but that is kind of why we paused at the 3-station time study piece there. So as far as how all of this correlates together into a recommendation. So the existing building, as mentioned, is in need for repair at a minimum. Now the fire department is operating in space that is not conducive for the team or maintaining staff or recruiting staff. The HVAC system should be completely replaced. The roofs need to be replaced. The apparatus bay floor needs extensive repair. The sidewalk apron that we had discussed on Broad Street is too steep and is causing damage to apparatus vehicles. There's not an adequate office space. I apologize. There's not adequate parking for staff. The sleeping quarters are inadequate, and the process of decontamination is inadequate when crews are coming back from fires. And then just as a note of what we're seeing from other fire departments in the state comparative to what you guys have, there's not currently a fitness facility on site for staff. That may seem like a luxury, but that is, I would say, common when we're talking about fire stations throughout the state. So just as a comparison, not necessarily a requirement, but a strong recommendation is that the fire departments throughout the state, and if we're talking about retaining staff and keeping staff here, that's probably a comparative point for those that may be considering one station over another. As mentioned in the past few minutes here, we did talk about the existing site. The existing site does serve the city of Elkhorn well from an NFPA time study analysis. It does not, however, serve the fire department response area well, with that only 47.4% of addresses served. So with a couple of those data points, our recommendation is that you do stay on the current site from an NFPA time study analysis, or you look at a site within a 3-block radius of the current station. We believe that if you were to, I don't have a site necessarily in mind, but if you were to come across a site within a 3-block radius of your current site, you would maintain that 98% of municipal addresses served. So staying on the site or within that 3-block radius is recommended. If you do stay on the existing site, we do and the existing site is the only space that you stay on. Do you need some water, sir?
No, I've got
Okay.
one, thank you.
All right. Yes. Just want to make sure you're all right. We do recommend that additional space and renovations are recommended to alleviate issues within the existing building. Of some of the largest space needs, office, bunker room, kitchen, and day room are those needs. A full replacement of the apparatus bay floor, a full HVAC replacement, and a full roof replacement are kind of your bare minimums to do that. Yeah, on the screen is a schematic plan option to stay on the current site and build to the south. We looked at this with the fire department that could we build, I'm going to use the laser on the screen over here, but in the notch behind the current fire station. And really, that does further hinder the current apparatus movements out of there and makes the apparatus bay, give or take 20% less effective. The current apparatus bay is already stacking vehicles in as it is, and you have vehicles coming out and actually maneuvering that alley. It's not necessarily large apparatus such as a ladder truck or even a water truck, but when you're talking about first response vehicles such as pickups or as a SUV, which are crucial to the fleet, that is how they're currently operating. So building in the northeast corner of the site was studied but decided not ideal, as we're going to make the current apparatus-based structure further an issue. So then it was thought to build a two-story structure to the south. The first story would primarily be office space and kitchen space, and the second story would primarily be mechanical space, bunk room, and day room spaces with appropriate showering and bathroom needs to support the crew on the second floor. This would require the demolition of the outdoor storage shed. We still would have to rework the existing slope issues on the street to the west. I believe that's Harvest. I might have that written Broad. It's on Broad. And unfortunately does make the current parking situations quite a bit worse. So here's just a quick blow-up plan of the proposed plan that could work to solve space needs of the existing site. You're also seeing the apparatus bays, the turnout gear area identified in that dark blue. We consider that like our dark, heavy renovation area. So we're talking about ripping the entire apparatus bay floor out. You know, that means that really you have to operate as a fire department somewhere else while that construction were to occur if you were to do that. And then pour it all back, get the drains fixed, fix the plumbing, get the HVAC fixed, and then you can come back on site. And then the light blue area is what we would call light renovation. So we're talking about fixing the lights, fixing the flooring, some of those things, any electrical needs that may be needed over there. Looking at roughly 2026 construction costs, this has an estimated project budget of about $7.6 to $8 million. Now, this next slide here I do feel like it's appropriate to just identify the existing site restrictions. So creating the additional space based off the needs for the building does remove any available parking on the site. The site was already inadequate from parking as you only have 6 stalls there currently, and now that is problematic from a shift change perspective when you really need about, I believe it's 14 to 16 stalls. And by building to the south of the building, parking would likely either have to be rented or properties nearby would have to be purchased to provide adequate parking for staff. Note that in the $7.6 to $8 million, this cost is not accounted for in that, because that would be an ongoing cost for the city. As mentioned, at least half of Broad Street would have to be reworked to fix the slope issues. The current site has to remain functioning as a back-in only station. A lot of fire stations continue to operate in that manner. It's not necessarily uncommon, but it is not also best practice. To be able to kind of come around towards the back end of the station and pull through is best case scenario when we were talking about the best operational standards for fire departments. And then the last kind of bullet point as far as existing site restrictions is that the site is not large enough for a tear down and rebuild to be a full headquarters station. This is due to the physical space needs for the apparatus bay, bare minimums on the first floor, and a minimum of 16 parking stalls. Although I'm sure we could work with your zoning administration at the city level, when you tear down a facility all the way down to the ground and rebuild, you're most likely going to have to obey by the current zoning requirements. Right now, your existing building's all the way up to the property line. So by the time you start taking setbacks into account, even if it's only 2 feet on the alley and 7 to 8 feet or 15 feet perhaps on the back, the site's starting to shrink. By the time we get the apparatus bay on there and get a couple of offices and 16 parking stalls, we're out of space. This is 0.6 acres that we're currently sitting on. And unfortunately, for a true headquarters style station where you're going to have chief, assistant chief, fire inspector, proper bunk room, proper day room, kitchen, all of those spaces, the site is problematic from a size perspective. So I'm probably sharing news that is not all rosy tonight. This all sounds expensive to a degree, so I do believe it's important to talk that there are options, okay? So we outlined a few options here. The first option is the station could remain as is. They're working currently in that facility. The facility has needs. It needs updates. I would encourage you that even if you don't solve space needs, or either on the site or inside the building, that you factor in roof replacement, you factor in HVAC replacement, you try to address the floor over a period of time, you can leave the station as is. That's an option. The second one would be to renovate the station and do not expand, right? So that would be taking everything in the facility study that's listed as poor and not touching any additional space needs. We're just gonna fix all the poor items, right? That's an option to renovate. The third option was based off the prior slide, to expand the station footprint and find a solution to provide parking for staff. A fourth option could be to build a new single station outside of downtown and seek to sell the current building. Another option for you. Fifth option is build a new station outside of downtown to better serve the primary response area and then remodel the current station to serve the city. So that's kind of talking about a two-station approach where you would have your main fire station somewhere outside of downtown, and then you would have, I would call this more or less a satellite station and the existing site that maybe has the bare minimum of, I'll call it 4 trucks without talking to the chief, right? And you're gonna have 2 personnel or however, the bare minimum you need to serve the city, right? And because the site from a time study perspective serves the city. So looking at kind of what we would call a headquarters and then a satellite station, the satellite station can be much smaller. You don't need the offices there. Your bunk room size can be slightly reduced. Your kitchen size can be slightly reduced. You can be more compact when you don't need all the main office functions of a fire station. Your last option, which is just kind of a recap on the NFPA time compliance side of things, would be to build 2 new stations outside of downtown and remodel the current station to bring the community closest to NFPA compliance. Obviously, I hope it's obvious, but we're probably talking about least expensive from the top to most expensive to the bottom. But those are what I believe the options are for City Council to consider tonight. And in the future going forward. So just as a recap to talk about project options, I wanted to recap that the estimated project budget to expand and renovate the current station is about 7.6 to 8 million. If we were looking at a new headquarters style station that would have a training room, would have a facility, a weights and fitness facility, a proper apparatus bay, bunk room, all that, everything that you would need from a bare minimum. We're looking at anywhere from 11.8 to 13.6 million. There's a bit of a gap there. Now, depending on when this conversation happens with City Council, we do like to talk about longevity of the building, what is the goal in investing, right, in facilities. So a brick and mortar, right, you're talking about a 60 to 80 year facility. It's gonna need HVAC replacement over the time, right, but it's gonna last the building itself is going to last a long time, right? When you have a brick and mortar exterior, and the interior is made of block walls and you were building it correctly, for the long duration, it does cost more money. That's where you're seeing that 13 to 13.6 million. Whereas if we were to look at like a red iron structure, a steel frame minimal is what I have labeled on the screen, you can save some money, probably in the 11.8 to 12.4 million dollar ratio. And this does have some aspects for just the amount of concrete or asphalt needed on the property, some generic stormwater calculations that we're going to need for a 3-acre site, things like that, in both pricing option. Just a couple of notes on the bottom. When we talk about the new station for a headquarters style structure, this doesn't account for any land acquisition or site-specific information such as utility connections, right-of-way improvements, things like that. And then as we've talked about, the expansion and renovation style doesn't account for the rental or purchase of property for parking and associated improvements that may be necessary. For example, if you were to purchase a grass lot and decide to pave it for 16 stalls, that cost is not in that $7.6 to $8 million range. So this is my last slide. Thank you for bearing with me, as there's a lot of data here. As a summary, the existing site, the property, right, serves the city of Elkhorn residents well. It does not, however, serve the primary response area well. The existing building needs more than repairs, as repairs do not solve the space needs inside or outside the physical building footprint. The fire department should likely stay on the current site or within a 3-block radius to serve the city's needs. And I think the last part that I will leave you with is that it's our recommendation to consider building a new fire department headquarters outside of downtown to better serve your fire response area, and invest in the current site or within a 3-block radius to serve the city of Elkhorn. So that really is a summary of both the existing facility structure, the lot that it sits on, and then how that lot and that building serves your response area that the fire department serves. So with that, I'm happy to take any questions on the presentation or the facility study.
I just had one question about that setback that I saw on the south side of the building is 17 feet, 8 inches, and that looked like it was pretty, that's a setback from, on the east side also, 17?
No, not necessarily. I believe the side yard setback, although it might be slightly different downtown, is somewhere in the neighborhoods of 15. I was just throwing a dimension string on there of how far the addition would approach your side property line.
Yeah.
So it does have about 17 feet there. That is really very close to a parking stall itself. However, you would be accessing a hypothetical parking stall from a property that you don't own. So that's why I'm not showing parking there.
Okay.
In that instance, I think if anything, it's probably a drive lane to get you around to the backside of the facility.
Perfect, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Between the two building types, brick and mortar and steel frame, what's easier to expand upon?
Yeah, I would say it depends on which area we're talking about expanding upon. If the apparatus bay we're needing to expand, the steel frame structure is easier to expand on, where you can kind of take down the facade much simpler and then put on another addition to it, and you just have columns in your apparatus bay, not the end of the world. However, when you think about like office area or when you think about bunk area, things like that, I would say that the brick and mortar can be somewhat simpler to add on to. So it kind of depends on which area of the building you would be potentially adding on to. And the reason why it's easier to add onto a brick and mortar for office space or for training space, et cetera, is that you can remove a portion of a wall, add on to that, have, a 4 to 6 foot wide opening, create a hallway through it, and then you're just kind of into the addition, right? When you get steel frame, your steel frame is your efficiency and size. So the bigger your frame is, the more efficient you get.
The $8 million does not include modifications to Broad Street, or does it?
It does.
It does.
I just wanted to mention a few things, if that's okay, too. I know that during our discussions, we had a couple, obviously, workshops with the fire department and myself. We did look at adding a second floor onto the north end of the building, but the footprint was too small. It just didn't meet the needs analysis, so that's what required the full expansion to be on the south side of the building. And the space needs that you talked about, I think it was roughly, was it 400 square feet that were, that one slide?
I believe it's 4,000 square feet.
4,000, sorry, 4,000.
Yeah.
Are we at that now with the current remodel that you show?
No, we would still be short. So I believe actually, I think we would be at the 18.8 now that I think about it, because it's about 3,600 square feet top and bottom, which actually puts us above that 8,800 square foot number. But when you think about building new versus putting hypothetically 7,000 square feet of additional space on the existing facility, is that you have some areas that you're being very efficient on in the existing structure, and some areas that you're not, right? So there's inefficiencies and efficiencies associated to the existing building, and depending on the spaces we're trying to solve, that we're solving kind of different needs based off of the space needs needed, if that makes sense. For example, if I can jump to the renovation slide quickly, one of the space needs that we're solving is kitchen and dining. That is currently in the turnout gear area, right? And so you can see the size constraints associated to that, is that's also how they get up to the current bunk area. If we were to put that in EMS storage, that might fit there, but then EMS storage has to go somewhere else. So we pulled kitchen dining into the addition. Well, now EMS storage is probably bigger than what we program need it to be, but I'm not just gonna like have wasted square footage. So like the program square footage versus the space available and also the space required can be not exactly a perfect wash.
I have two questions. The first is, correct me if I'm wrong, you said that the recommendation is to, if we do build new, we want to stay within 3 blocks of the current space we have right now.
Or outside of downtown, one of those two.
Right.
Yes.
Does the city currently own anything within a 3-block radius of the current fire department? Because I don't believe that we do. So we'd have to go acquire land or buy a bunch of houses or whatever, or businesses, et cetera. So my second question is, I think on one of your first slides, it said that current taxpayers in the city proper have over 90% for response time based upon the current location. Is that correct?
That is correct.
And so where would we be if we hypothetically took down the one downtown and we built new either north or south of town? We're going to go way beyond the 90% for the people in the city limits.
So that's actually where that next study gets, I would say, a bit tricky, is that when we explored the location, I'll call it a Harvest Way and County Road 12, you can see it's a little bit small, but there's a small segment of area in the lower southwest corner of the purple area, which is your residential boundary, that is no longer being served. It's also the business park that we're sitting in today is no longer being served. So by moving just up to Harvest Way out of downtown, which is, you know, a generic intersection for time study purposes, we would be reducing the number of addresses served. Now, I think that 3-block radius, although there's not a property as it stands today available or owned by the city, it gets us where we want to be in that 90+% rate. I can provide data to Matt Lindstrom or Adam as well to provide what the exact percentage of of municipal addresses served by this location, but moving more than 3 blocks out is going to drop our number.
I guess from both the presentation you did today and the one you did last month, I'm in favor of keeping the current site and doing the necessary repairs and expansion that we need to do. And I don't recommend that we build additional fire stations based upon the totality of the circumstances and the costs involved. So that's where I'm at.
So what if the city just served the city instead of all the other areas? What legal ramifications if we don't worry about everybody else outside the city limits?
I believe you currently have, and I don't, Chief, if you want to jump in here, or Adam, or whoever it may be, but there are current agreements in place with those.
I'm aware of the
Yeah.
agreements. I'm just saying, what if we change those agreements?
We don't serve those other 4 townships.
Correct.
Yeah.
I mean, it would be a loss of income, right, for the city. That would be probably the biggest piece.
Loss of income versus huge expenditures. You gotta do a full cost analysis to decide. It's not just one-sided.
Agreed.
Adding 2 more fire stations is not gonna be cheap.
Adding 1 more fire station is not going to be cheap.
Correct.
I will say, in working with other fire station or fire departments throughout the state, although it is not extremely popular when you are working with multiple municipalities out of a larger municipality such as yourself, they often do consider fire districts, where there is a fire board set up of representation at each of them, where they all have a stake and a share in not only paying for facilities, but paying for operations, maintenance, et cetera. And that helps offset the bigger load that maybe can come to the large municipality, in this case, the city of Elkhorn. That is not necessarily a recommendation of mine. That is just something for you to consider if you're interested in keeping your current primary response area.
For Elaine or for Adam, what would be the implications or impacts to those townships that we currently serve if and when we get to a point where we choose to make a new firehouse or do an expansion? Would all those current fire district townships that we serve now, would they be required to pay in their percentage to any additional, like this $8 million? Would they have to pay a chunk of that, just like us buying those new fire trucks that we voted on last month? They're paying their fair share, I guess, for lack of a better term?
I'd have to double check the agreement. It certainly talks about sharing capital costs, whether they're going to object. I mean, the agreement's up for renewal next year, so they're going to want to renegotiate that. If we go to them and say, hey, you owe us to rehab the downtown only existing, station, are they going to raise a concern about that it's not helping their response rate? They might. It's hard to know. So regardless of what the agreement says right now, they're going to want to renegotiate it anyway, and we're going to want to renegotiate to make sure that our concerns are addressed. And just as an FYI, right now, I mean, the city, we pay 58.5% of the cost allocation for fire, slightly less, about 55% for EMS. So that gives you a sense as to what the townships are kicking in. So.
Because just like my point, I assume you understand where I'm going with this. The townships aren't going to want to get a memo saying, guess what, we decided to vote on this and here's your payment, here's your chunk. Because they weren't real happy about it with the fire trucks, I'm sure. We had a little pushback. We worked through it. But, if we're planning on doing any kind of multi-million-dollar project, they would want in 2026 or beyond. I would think we owe it to them to tell them now.
Yeah, and that's part of the reason under the, one of the discussion items for tonight was for the council to provide some guidance on how you want the city to move forward, whether you want to have a joint meeting with the towns now that we've got the results to talk about what's important to them. Are they okay with the current response time? Are they looking for new stations to be built? If so, then, what's their contribution and what would they contribute to a renovation of the existing facility? I mean, even if the existing facility were to be rehabbed or a new station were to be built downtown, yes, that is primarily, best meeting the needs of the city in terms of response rate, but, that's the way the fire department's been operating up till now. So, and I think as the consultant has said, and I know the chief has said, I mean, there's obviously problems with the existing station as is. So in order to provide fire service, whether it's just for the city or, with the current response rate, something needs to be done to the existing facility. So
Sure.
they may object to wanting to contribute to the cost of a downtown station, but that downtown station needs to be, improved or modified at minimum to continue to exist even as it is. So that's gonna
I
be
think it's
something
only
to
fair
discuss
and
with them.
right that, I think they're represented here tonight, if I'm not mistaken, that we do have a meeting with them. And,
Yeah.
tell them our side of the story, and they can tell us theirs. and-
Show them the same presentation. I mean, it's self-explanatory. I mean,
Right.
so my next question is monetarily, regardless of option A, B, C, or D, where is this money projected to come from? Are we talking a referendum? Are we talking about a capital improvement? Or are we talking about a tax levy increase? What are we talking about to come up with these funds? Because even if we go with the quote-unquote cheapest, we're looking at a minimum of $8 million.
Well, it depends on whether it's, all 8 million is coming from the city, if it's allocated with portion with, I mean, that's gonna make a difference, but yeah, it would have to be something we'd bond for. So, and yeah, it's gonna have an impact on the tax rate. I mean, if you add 8 million in debt.
I guess,
Question, the current downtown location, if you took just its footprint and put a properly sized fire station with enough parking for the staff and the however you take care of the vehicles, what, would there be any benefit of take the existing station, take it completely out of there, put something appropriately sized, considering we've got road problems, I mean, the list of things that are wrong with this station are pretty long. But if we were to put, say, in conjunction with putting a properly sized station in downtown, because it does cover 90-some, a high percentage, it's a good location, but to have everything in one place, would it make more sense to put do a smaller station downtown and something far on the north, and then also on the north end or on the south end, depending on, I mean, how it would cover our response times, so we could be closer to, in compliance?
Yeah, I think the answer to that question is that you can tear down the existing facility and put up a new properly sized facility. But to have that be a headquarters style fire department, the property is not big enough. So that being said, could you have a 60-foot bay, smaller kind of satellite station without offices at the downtown location, and have a true headquarters, kind of main fire department somewhere else, whether it's north, south, you place it. That's probably best case scenario, but there's money associated to that. So, yeah, I think going back to one of the recommendations is that the site, as the property boundaries that you currently have, is not adequate to fully tear down and put a headquarters there. It can serve well as a satellite station, but not a headquarters.
Gotcha, so part of the requirement is the headquarters, I got you.
Now there's, I would say a parking lot or something like that to the south. There's a gravel space, parking lot, et cetera, to the south. I am not here to suggest purchase of any specific property, but obviously the more you were to garner around there, the better odds you have of getting a headquarters on that site or close to it. But you're also downtown, right? And that presents challenges for purchasing property.
I guess for one, I think this is great information. I'd like to see a meeting with the townships as the next step and go from there. I don't think we can make any decisions till we have that meeting.
I agree.
So logistically, how would that work? Is that a committee of the whole maybe? Or a special meeting somehow? It's not a council meeting.
We would just schedule a special meeting. It would be a joint meeting with the towns.
Okay, would it be possible for you to try to set that up? I'm guessing sooner is better than later. Everybody involved?
I agree.
And I would go one step further, and I would give them an advanced copy of this PowerPoint, so they don't come in blind. And that way, if they do have questions, they'll be able to ask them and have them glean whatever information they need to get from the people in their townships or from their board members who can't be in attendance. They can actually, ship it out to the parties that need to see it in their municipalities.
Okay, great. Thanks, Scott. Thank you, Nate. Great information.
Awesome. Thank you all.
And,
Good.
we've got reports of city boards and community partners. We've got fire advisory. Is anything going on?
We had our meeting, just going over response times. I did have a couple townships have questions about this because they've looked at meeting minutes and had questions on that. And
Okay,
a couple of them are one township's in attendance tonight, so
great.
that's,
Okay,
other than that, nothing else new, Mayor.
okay, thank you, Chief. The library.
Good evening. So, report as written, but the Library Board Ad Hoc Committee met on February 7th with Dimension 4 to discuss further design choices. Topics included the initial results of the hazardous materials survey and a discussion of the viability of redesigning the library basement and the addition of an elevator to connect all floors. Our next meeting will be on Friday, February 21st, where we hope to make further design progress. Thank you.
Thank you, Chad. Rec advisory.
Yep, just one item. Our next Park and Rec Advisory Board meeting is Wednesday, March 5th at 5:30 at the Elkhorn Library Community Center.
Okay, thank you, Carol. Chamber of Commerce.
Chris, you cleaned the house out here.
Couple of them said goodnight.
They weren't moving till you got up. I'm a little worried.
Well, good evening. All the information tonight was very interesting, but we're going to talk about chamber and tourism. As some of you may know, if you're a business owner or part of our community, we are in the process of creating our yearly community guide and tourism piece that we put together. We put approximately 30,000 of them get distributed throughout the community and throughout the state and the Midwest here. It's a great piece that we ship out quite often. Upcoming events that we are handling is we are partnering with Evergreen at the Chicago Golf Show that we do every year. It's a great event to attend, and we also work with the Holiday Inn Express, creating what we call a stay and play package, and that gets a lot of attention for us in the weekday times. If you're a retired golfer, we get a lot of them come up for that. We've engaged and commissioned or signed a contract with Broadland Photography and Video, which is out of the Madison area, which we've been using periodically for some photos and videos, but we have contracted them for some specific spring, summer, fall events, and to get a good Elkhorn photography, which is better beyond than just the average cell phone. That is, we have definitely some specific, and we will, if anyone would like to be some fill-in actors for any of those, we're looking for them for different parts and pieces. So just let me know if you want to put that on your resume also. Exciting news as Captain Brandel and Matt and I were speaking. I don't know if any of you have been following, and some of them I cannot disclose, but Alpine Valley and the region will be having some really unique concerts this year, starting in July. What do they call it? The 1999 tour. So if you're one of my age group in that, there'll be a lot of them around. And as we all know, that demographic has the disposable cash. So that is great for our area, and we've already heard from the Holiday Inn that they are already booked, and they did a 3-night minimum. So we will be in flux already. So that is coming up very quickly, and working with, again, we get together with all the chambers in Walworth County, planning our schedules, trying to see how many things overlap, and just promoting our area as hard as we can. But if you ever have any questions or concerns, let us know. I know our calendar of events is fully updated. I just have to get it over to Rebecca to get out and submit. I finished all my report or all my applications for the year. So if anybody has questions, let me know.
Okay, thanks, Chris. This isn't the right time for it, but if you can give me a list of any good music from 1999, I'd be interested.
That era.
All right. Unfinished business.
They're good.
Community grant.
You forgot community grant writer.
Community grant.
Oh, I always forget you, Katie. I move right on. I'm so sorry.
Sidetracked by
It's
your
only
sarcasm.
because I have an entire 99 playlist for you to consider. Good evening, everyone. I just wanted to let you know I had a very big month, which was exciting. I went to the Governor's Conference on Economic Development with Derek Dioria. That was in the city of Milwaukee with the mayor there. The big takeaway that came from that conference was informing all economic development advisors in the state that the silver tsunami is upon us. That is the prediction of the baby boomer generation is retiring faster than they anticipated, and it's going to impact our workforce. I have an amazing presentation that was slightly depressing, but also gave a lot of information about how we can help in our local communities to address that upcoming issue. The other thing I wanted to share with you is that the Elkhorn Economic Development Alliance is the building improvement grant is in full swing. I'm sure you've seen some the improvements in downtown in 2024. They took on 2 projects, and in 2025 already we have 3 projects of local property owners that were interested in participating with the grant. So thank you so much for assisting us with that funding to make improvements, particularly on South Wisconsin Street. So that's the area from someplace else down to where the new Best Bargains is. So you'll see a lot of improvement down there. And Carl, Matt, and I had our final meeting with Neil Vogel from Historic for the historic structure report for the band shell. And we're going to give a presentation in the next couple of weeks. But I wanted to thank Neil for his help with that. He gave us a lot of insightful history on our band shell and really the city of Elkhorn. The band shell itself is an important piece of history locally. And on Friday, Carl and I are going to advocate for it being an important piece of history for the entire state of Wisconsin. It's important, it is important for grants, but it's important for everyone else to recognize its value and worth as well because of what it represents to music, to public gathering and fellowship in communities just like ours. And I wanted to also publicly recognize Carol Cartwright from the Wisconsin Historical Society. She, pro bono, actually put together the amended report for the state to review on our behalf. And we're so grateful to have her help. So thank you.
Thank you, Katie. Now we'll move on to unfinished business. We've got an update from the Chief Eichmann regarding the maintenance reports. Thank you, Chief.
Well, Adam was kind enough to print all them out. I brought Ryan in tonight. He's here from Siren Services. I guess kind of the big takeaway is Ryan can recommend whatever service he wants, but Ryan's only authorized to fix what I, as a fire chief, would authorize him to fix. And in the past, I would just turn it over to Ryan and how we kind of got to this point where we're at right now.
Hi, I'm Ryan. I am actually the owner of Siren Services. Our previous employer, EAM, Perry and I both work for, and throughout the years, we've done service work for the city of Elkhorn. Throughout the years, we would come in, do service work. One thing to keep in mind, we were not solely the ones doing repairs on your apparatus. Many times it was done in-house. Other times it was sent out to other repair facilities. I wasn't always privy to where it was sent and exactly what was done. So we could make a recommendation and the administration would make their decision on who would do it, where it would be done, or not to do it at all. We will not make any repairs without the authorization of the chief. period. It's not my money. I can make the recommendations, and then it's left up to the department to make the decision to repair or not to repair. So the end result is the trucks are aging, some maintenance has been left go, and unfortunately, the trucks are at a state where you guys are probably gonna have to start looking at new apparatus. Now, I will tell you, in all the years I've done this, you will see these trucks deteriorate over time. You will not see high mileage on them. You will not see high hours on them. But they get taken out, pulled back in, and they do start to deteriorate. The easiest way of thinking about fire apparatus, every one of these vehicles is a prototype. It's not your cookie cutter pickup truck, car, or whatever, where they're running thousands. Every truck is a prototype, and they are prone to problems. So, unfortunately, and I don't know if the department has ever had a replacement schedule and tried to stay on track with that, but there is life expectancy on these vehicles. NFPA spells it all out. Is that financially feasible for all communities? Probably not. But I will tell you that the past administration did send this apparatus out to several different locations to get different repairs done. And that was at their discretion. So I'm open for questions.
Don't you have to be certified to work on fire trucks?
You are supposed to be EVT certified.
How many shops like that are in the area?
Um,
I know of one in Lake Mills and yours.
Yep.
Are
The Pierce Dealer and Slinger.
Slinger.
Yep. And then Lake Mills and us. And that's about it.
Okay.
So what should be the frequency of PMs on these vehicles?
We recommend minimally once a year to do a PM. Okay, that includes doing a oil change, filter change, as far as oil, the fuel, and going through and doing a safety inspection. And if they qualify, we DOT them. If they don't, then necessary repairs have to be made.
Okay, so how often do you reach out to the city of Elkhorn regarding setting up PM plans?
Once a year.
So I went through, there's what, 4 of them here? And the dates on them are longer than a year.
That could be a scheduling conflict. Now, the last time we did a full maintenance on them was fall of '23. And the reason the chief did not have us is because you had apparatus out of service. So we pushed out the maintenance. In fact, he just asked me the other day if we can try to squeeze them in before spring. But you had a truck out of service, waiting on an extended period of time for the parts to get the apparatus back in. Now, when we go through and do a complete maintenance on it, that truck will be out of service for about half a day.
Well, I get that. But, you know, I'm looking at some of these dates here. You know, we got 2021, 2022, signed off 10/6/2023, 2022, 2021. I'm just trying to understand about the follow-through of the city, not you, but in general, of us not staying on task of getting these trucks maintained. And I get it, if one's down, we got a problem.
Right.
But at the end of the day, you still gotta get the other ones maintained, because otherwise you're gonna have a bigger problem,
True.
right?
Very true.
So, you know, and I guess where I'm going with this is, even for this council, is what type of oversight do we have, if any, to make sure that the PM schedules are occurring on city-owned property? Whether it's the police cars, fire trucks, the trucks over in Public Works, is there anything in place for us to
keep an eye on that versus just relying on the head of the department. Do we have anything like that?
I asked the same question.
I think however we got here, moving forward, I have total confidence in this administration, the fire administration.
I'm sorry, Pete, that's not where I'm going.
Okay,
Is regardless of who's in charge now, we have an obligation to have safety precautions put in place to prevent this from happening again. Because we just sat through an hour-long conversation about a police station. We've all had multiple conversations about police vehicles and fire vehicles. And I didn't see the money tree outside to pay for all these trucks. Does this city have something in place? And if it doesn't, we need an oversight from the city council over all these things, in my opinion.
May I offer a suggestion?
Absolutely.
Would you be receptive to the department heads that have city-owned vehicles submitting something to Adam every 6 months on which vehicles have been maintained and what happens in what has happened to those vehicles in the last 6 months, like oil changes and tire rotations, or it was out of service for 2 days, something like that, to keep them out, to make sure that doesn't fall through the cracks?
There's got to be something.
That'd be the first thing I would think of.
There's
I
gotta
mean,
be
obviously, the department had responsibility, but to ensure that that doesn't just slip through the cracks. I'm not trying to put more on Adam's plate, but if they could submit, some kind of a standard, city-owned vehicle form with dates and, whatever maintenance, they just keep a log, and then every 6 months, they turn it into the city administrator to show that we're keeping up with it?
Well, I guess
Unless somebody has a better idea.
well, the concern with that is possibly previous administrations might have received that stuff and didn't act on it, and then the council was unaware of it.
Right.
So,
But if
But
he
if it goes-
tells everybody July and January, you submit me your 6-month form,
what I'm saying is then it's the obligation, if it goes to Adam as an example, then it's, the city council has to obligate and make sure that the city administrator provides that information
sure, of course.
to the council. So there's got to be, again, oversight to make sure we don't have these types of issues. Because he's trying to run a fire department with all sorts of things that aren't taken care of. And, I get it, but I know it wasn't your fault, we're here, but we're here. How do we stop it from happening again?
Can I
And,
make- can I
right,
make a
just a
suggestion?
sec. So right now, we're all here and we all understand it, but we're not all gonna be here forever.
Right. And 8 months from now, how do you know if any of this stuff got addressed?
Bingo.
Yeah.
And the only way to do it is have something oversight that, look, whether it's added to municipal services, whatever other committees that we have, make that a line item that add into it. You guys tell me from the legal side, which group does that make sense to put it under, which umbrella? And look, we've got to be on top of this stuff because we're going to be going to the taxpayers and say, well, we want 12 million for this, want another 3 million for that, another 4 million for that, another 5 million for that. Next thing you know, we're at $100 million. And I don't know about you, but the city of Elkhorn and the local residents don't have an extra $100 million laying around to pay for stuff because they were not maintained. And we, as a city, not us, did not have proper oversight to make sure stuff happened when it needed to happen. That's my thoughts. So,
go ahead.
I was gonna let Kurt jump in
To
here.
add to your point, before we can get to that point, I think every piece of equipment, anything that moves, it has a complete inspection. We need a baseline to start with. I mean, that's what we got here. We trusted an administrator, and we've got more stuff wrong than we know what to do with. We don't know we don't know that or did anybody else, if those budgets should have been increased before. Obviously, people weren't aware of the problem. So without having a baseline and I mean every piece of equipment, every lawnmower, everything, because it all costs us money, to at least know that what condition the thing's in now, because if we want to try and squeeze another 5 years out of this, that's when the maintenance gives us that possibility. But without having a place to start and just asking them to hand, what's been done, I think it's necessary, but we need to know what condition they are in today.
Well, it's a multi-tier approach.
Sure.
It's a
Yeah.
parallel approach. You can't
Right.
just say, okay, we're not gonna do nothing until we do this. No, you gotta have multi-tier approach here. Look, we know we got some issues with trucks. We gotta start working on it. That's what we've talked about multiple times. We gotta start getting those things addressed, you know. All right, we can only do this time, but let's get through those. And in the process, get something in place so we can start having that oversight through whatever committee that already exists. So we can start getting that ball rolling and start giving the other department heads a chance to, they might already have this stuff. I know Matt is all over his stuff. He's on top of it. And I know the police department would love to have vehicles if they actually came through when they ordered them versus getting canceled all the time.
That's been going on for 30 years. It's
But-
not a city of Elkhorn issue.
Well, I understand.
That's a cop shop issue, let me tell you what.
But I understand, but the point is having that oversight through whatever committee that we already have in place. I'm not saying create a new committee, but there's a committee that we already have that should be under, and it should be one of those requirements that you have to go through and make sure that the chief is doing his thing, the director is doing their thing, the police are doing their thing, so on and so forth. It's making sure that the property is being taken care of when it's supposed to, versus finding out much after the fact with a whole bunch of a different crew, and they have to sit there and explain why we're having to raise everybody's taxes. That's my piece.
Peter?
Ryan?
Yes.
You've got some expertise in this. You're our expert in the room. What do you see from other fire departments? We're thinking about inventing the wheel. What kind of guidance can you give us on this?
First of all, most departments have a replacement schedule. There's a life expectancy on these. You kind of stick to that because you know at a certain point, the maintenance is going to start exceeding the value of the vehicle. The costs are going to keep going up. Number two is NFPA has a bunch of regulations on replacement, reserve, and retirement of apparatus. My personal opinion, you got to get that replacement schedule in place. You guys, I hate to say it, but you're buying the 8-ball. Nobody has a magic ball. Like I said, these trucks are a prototype. So the unknown is always out there. You can have a pump failure, you can have a transmission failure, you can have an engine failure. You know, so there's a lot of unknowns all the time. But I think if you get a replacement schedule and you space that out every 3 years or 5 years or whatever you guys decide and plan on ordering a new truck. The other thing to keep in mind is currently, City of Janesville, I do all their work. They just ordered up a new ladder, 4.5 years before they'll take delivery of it. So if you bought a truck today that wasn't part of a production truck, sometimes they'll sneak in some trucks in the production. I'm not in the sales side of things. We're strictly service. But sometimes you can pull a truck that is already in production that they have for a stock model. But if you're going to order a truck specific to your department with your needs on there, you're looking at 3 to 5 years before you're going to take delivery of it. It's sad. What we're being forced to do, because all this kind of happened during the COVID era, now we are trying to keep trucks extended out until the new ones come in. But your biggest enemy right now is waiting. And I know the money scares the heck out of everybody, but when you figure there's a 3 to 5 year wait on a truck, pushing it out a year puts it that much further out. And then you have to take your current apparatus and try to keep that running. And those expenses are going to go up because of the age.
But with a good maintenance program, I mean, it makes that easier, doesn't it?
Yes, but like I said, you still have the unknown. The pumps only have so many Yes, you're going to help. Changing oil, keeping up on things, and maintaining the truck throughout the years is definitely going to help. Far as the frames and the bodies starting to deteriorate because of the climate we live in, you can wash them, you can clean them, but there's only a certain amount of life.
Right.
You know, and when you start looking at specifically your trucks, to go through, let's talk about reframing. Okay, you got the frames are rusting out. you can't justify the cost. You cannot justify the cost because, okay, you put new frame rails in there, you're still dealing with an old engine, old transmission, old differential, old pump, old body. You're throwing, you're throwing good money after bad. So right now, I think a replacement schedule would be the first thing. Number two is definitely stay on a maintenance schedule. Like I said, in the past, Perry and I would come in, do some repairs, and then it may go to this person or that person. We really didn't have a good track record throughout the years. And Perry had been working on those trucks for, I'm gonna say 15 to 20 years, but we weren't solely the ones doing it. It would get shipped out, or some of the repairs would be done in-house. And whether or not they got done, I don't know.
Well, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think our marching orders from several months back still hold true today. And that is take the amount of money that you can that is budgeted for repairs and get these vehicles, get them triaged and get them back out on the road. And if that means, it's got to stay up in Lake Mills for a whole day and you've got to ask the town of Delavan to cover us with that piece of apparatus, then do it.
Correct.
That's where we got to start. That's correct me if I'm wrong. I mean, we've been circling the drain on this thing for 6 months. So like I said, I know we only have a certain amount of money. Stretch it as long as you can, and then every where it's appropriate, every month or whatever, when it's time to talk about continued unfinished business, give us an update. Hey, just so you guys know, we had oil changes on all the vehicles, and Siren did this and this, and it was this piece of apparatus. We fixed the tie rod. I want to know that we're fixing this stuff and the stuff's getting done. And again, we all have a budget, and you can only do what you can do. But that's where I'm at.
The only question I have, and I'm going to basically ask you, Chief, the same question. I know you weren't so much in maintenance in Pooler, but, you coming into me and saying, hey, we changed the oil 5 times a year in the engine. I don't know, does it need to be changed 5 times? Does it need to be changed once a year? Does it need to be gone over twice a year? I mean, I have no expertise in that. I'm asking, what have you seen in the past from fire departments that you worked at?
Depends on how much you're running them. I mean, it comes down to how much the trucks are on the road and running them. I know where I came from. I had 100,000 miles on an 8-year-old truck. But they were in there at least once a quarter getting service. They were getting oil changes, cabs were getting popped, everything was getting cleaned off. And we had our own EVT though. He was going through everything. We were fortunate enough to have one.
And do you know how that got reported back to an oversight committee? Gary, is where I'm trying to lean this all back to.
That was straight to the chief, and then if anybody from the city needed to know, we had a pretty robust replacement program. So that's just where we were at. We had the finance to be able to do it.
Excuse me. I can tell you with the city of Janesville, which runs 12,000 calls a year with 5 stations, I end up doing full service on their main engines 3 times a year in between the repairs. So my rule of thumb, because of the idle time, is about 250 hours on an oil change. I don't think you guys are probably getting 250 hours in a year. So that's why we elected throughout the years with most departments to do a once-a-year annual oil change maintenance because of the cost. Oil is great, but you've got other repairs, and it keeps everything.
And I'm sorry to interrupt you, but that's what I'm talking about, the triaging. I don't
Yes.
really give a rip about, the oil changes. That's standard preventative maintenance. I'm talking about these critical things where, we've heard from the chief and other people that there's things, these things aren't even roadworthy. And that's the kind of stuff that we got to get on top of. If we spend $20,000 to get one piece of equipment, a critical need, out of this, $100,000 budget we have for repairs, then do it. I'm not as concerned about the whole, did it get an oil change, did it get a tire rotation? I expect the department head to know exactly when that needs to get done and to work with your expertise and making sure that gets scheduled. I'm not as concerned about that as maybe some of the others, but I don't even know if this thing's roadworthy.
Yeah.
That scares the hell out of me.
And that's why I said multi-tier approach.
Right.
One is we got here because no one was watching
Right,
what was happening.
right, well,
We're here because no one was watching what was going on. No one was responsible for what was happening. Yes, I've said, we have, and I agree with you, we got to get these vehicles fixed. However, we've got to stop the bleeding. The way to stop the bleeding is have someone as oversight that can make sure that these department heads are doing their jobs. And if they're not doing their jobs, we can catch it before it turns into this mess that we have right now. And that's the problem we have. We have a multi-million-dollar screw-up because no one was minding the store. That's my problem.
well, and like I
Let's
said.
fix the trucks, but let's get some oversight in what's going on here so we can prevent it from happening again. That's my point, is we have to fix it, but we also got to stop this crap.
Well, like I said, I piggyback off of what you said, unless somebody has a better idea. Every 6 months, they turn in reports of all the maintenance, preventative or otherwise, to the Municipal Services Committee.
Yeah.
Or the department head, or, I mean, the city administrator. Otherwise, I don't know how else we could do it. If someone's got a better idea, I'm not here to reinvent the wheel.
I got a question for the chief. Out of these reports you gave us, if you had a choice to take one of these and then send a truck down there to have serviced and get whichever one you think is most important to you, and get it down there and have them go through it and start doing that one first, and then depending on how much money's left in the budget, move on to the next one, would that be feasible from your point?
Last council meeting or 2 council meetings ago, you guys had me start taking them out to a place to get quotes on them. I picked one up today and I got the second one out there right now. So,
But I mean, there's gotta be one of these that you probably need more than the other three.
it all depends on the call. I need a water tender to bring water to a not hydrated area. Every truck serves a different purpose, sir.
All right, but we should get started, I think. as soon as you-
And I think we have.
Does the chief have to come
We've
back
taken
to
some-
us to start getting repairs made, if it's within the budget?
I'm sorry, say it again?
Does the chief has to come back to us
No.
to get repairs
He
made, as
doesn't-
long as it's within the budget?
Yeah, do
It's
it.
in the budget.
Get it going.
You don't need to come here, no.
Yeah.
Let's get it done. You know, my ask is, by next council, legal and the city administrator come back to this group and say, which umbrella it should be under, and that's where it's gonna go under, and that's what we're gonna do. That's my ask.
And have a draft of either a proposal or a policy change to support that.
Yes.
To implement it.
Yes, that's what I want.
Okay,
That's what
I'm
this
go- I'm good
group
with
should
that.
ask for.
I'm good with that.
Please.
Meantime, he can still move forward.
He should,
Right.
he should be
There's money
going
in the
full speed
budget
ahead.
for that.
He should be
Right.
going full speed ahead from the conversation we had
Yeah.
last council and the council before that, and maybe the one before that. But I know you're on it. He's on it. So let's stop kicking the dead horse. Let's stop the bleeding on everything else. Please.
Sounds good. Anyone have any other questions for Ryan or anything? Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thanks for coming in.
We're gonna move on to the fireworks.
Oh, did we cover B? I'm sorry.
I think we just did.
Yeah. Yeah, we did.
Well,
Yeah, I mean, not
I think,
formally, but.
I apologize.
No,
then.
but if you have something to add.
I do. So if you look at your packet, and the chief can confirm this, 2626 is catastrophically failed and is out of service right now. We can't fix this rig. It's right?
It's not what Ryan had just said, throwing good money after bad. Right now, that truck they're saying needs to be completely reframed. He said you're looking at about $250,000 for a 21-year-old truck.
And
It's just a frame.
And
That's
I'd
not-
like to bring up a point, so this vehicle's out of service. I talked to the chief earlier today, the company we bought the ladder truck through, has an engine, bear with me on this, they have an engine that we could put into service this year, soon. The engine's in our budget for next year, and they won't charge us till next year, so we had a failure, we have a solution, to get a vehicle that's in the budget for next year and not pay for it this year.
Well, that's not on the agenda. So we shouldn't really be talking about buying another engine.
How do we proceed with that? Get on,
if you want that to be discussed, then you should place that on the next agenda.
Correct. And come in with all the details that's appropriate with it, in writing, what the organization says they'll do, so on and so forth, et cetera. We need all the
I
details.
recommend it. Chief, are you aware of that situation?
Yes, sir.
Yep, if you could come in with a recommendation, if that works out.
Yes, sir, I can do that for you.
Yeah, okay, great, thank you.
And just, I have a quick follow-up for Peter. Your understanding is that this potential new purchase would get 26 back right into service just by getting a new engine? We'd be back on the road?
No, new vehicle.
Engine's the whole vehicle. It's
The whole.
firehouse talk.
He's willing to give it to us for how much?
What's budgeted next year?
1.005, but it's under that, the one I was looking at. That's what's budgeted for next year.
And I brought it up because I thought that it falls under our discussion of maintenance of our current rigs, and that's with one catastrophically failing, so that's why I brought it up.
You're still talking.
Yeah, but it should go on the next agenda.
Okay, we're gonna get this on the next
Okay,
agenda.
all right.
And,
All right, let's talk about fireworks.
all right.
This agenda's taking forever.
Who's got some firework info?
Yes, I included a short memo. Basically, we went to the firework company, asked them to make the changes that our council requested, and they informed us that they're not considering any changes to the agreement. I talked to the firework company. It's the same agreement that they use for all municipalities that they show fireworks for. And it's also like the same agreement that the city has signed for the past several years. And then with that too, just another thing, while the fireworks provider will provide primary insurance for the liability related to the firework display, the city has also applied for additional special event coverage through CIVMIC as well, which is another direction of the council, just to make sure we're covered. But yeah, the agreement that's in front of you today is the same agreement that was in front of you last council meeting.
So they were not willing to amend it to cover us more than they already have in the past with previous contracts?
I think the main one was that if a legality were to happen, it'd take place in Iowa.
And how much
over
is this additional coverage from CIVMIC gonna cost us?
Oh, man, I think I forgot what the total was.
That's kind of important.
Yeah,
It was $600, wasn't
yeah,
it?
yep, 600, just under 700.
Is that an umbrella for like the whole year or just that one event?
Just the one event.
Wow, $600 for 2 hours of firework, or for 20 minutes of fireworks? Yeesh, okay, well, we gotta have it, right?
When you're lighting stuff on fire.
Yeah, I get it.
That's not expensive.
Are they gonna throw a fire truck in on it?
Okay. I make a motion, do you need a motion to sign the contract? Is that what you're looking for? It says discussion and possible decision.
Yes.
Yes, I make the motion to go ahead and enter it into contract with J&M and with the additional CIVMIC coverage.
I'll second that.
Got a motion and a second. Any questions?
And just to clarify too, it's $692.
Okay.
for coverage.
Just roll call because it's a contract. It doesn't matter.
No, it's okay.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Opposed? All right, we're gonna sign the firework contract. Motion passes. New business, we've got discussion and possible decision regarding next steps for planning a fire station rehabilitation and new fire station construction. I think we already spoke about that, and our next item is to have a joint meeting.
Yes.
So, moving on to B, we're gonna have a public hearing, so I'm gonna open a public hearing regarding proposed ordinance number 2025-06, an ordinance to create Article 8.10 of the Code of Ordinances for the City of Elkhorn, Walworth County, Wisconsin, relating to the adoption of an official map. Is there anyone here that would like to be heard at the public hearing? I don't have do I need to read the whole announcement for the public hearing?
You should
we have
read
a-
what it's for.
You have the notice of public hearing?
Oh my God, I don't have to read all that, do I?
No, that's the ordinance.
If you're gonna read all that, I'm going to the bathroom.
We're gonna take a break.
Go back up to the top, Matt? No, I can read off here. Matt will go back up to the top of that.
Oh, is it, okay, let me go back here. Is the notice in here? Do we know?
It's not.
Oh, it's not?
Do you have to?
Well, I think legally, all you have to do is call for anyone to have a public comment during a public hearing 3 times and you're done.
Right.
you have to read.
I should have gone to law school.
You still can.
Yes.
No, God, no.
Public notice is hereby given that pursuant to section 62.236 of the Wisconsin statutes, the Common Council of the City of Elkhorn, Walworth County, Wisconsin, shall hold a public hearing to hear public comment on a proposed official map for the City of Elkhorn. The public hearing will be conducted by the City Council, or the City of Elkhorn Common Council, at 5:30 PM on Wednesday, February 19th, 2025, in the council chamber, city administration offices, 311 Seymour Court, Elkhorn, Wisconsin. All interested parties will be heard. The common council may consider adoption of the proposed official map at the conclusion of the public hearing. There we go. Would anyone like to be heard? Asking again. Public hearing is closed. Moving on, discussion and possible decision regarding proposed ordinance number 2025-06, an ordinance to create Article 8.10 of the Code of Ordinances for the City of Elkhorn, Walworth County, relating to the adoption of an official map, first and possible second reading.
I'd like to make a motion to waive the first reading.
Second.
Got a motion and a second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye, first reading is waived.
I'd like to make a motion to approve the second reading.
Second that.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
The ordinance is passed. We've got a discussion and possible decision regarding payment application number 3 from Visu Sewer LLC for the 2024 sewer rehabilitation project in the amount of $187,962.50.
Make a motion to approve.
I'll second.
Got a motion and a second. Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Scott McClory.
Yes.
Gary Payson Jr.
Yep.
Peter Harvey.
Yes.
Ron Dunwoody.
Yes.
Ken Minell.
Yes.
Kurt Harkness.
Yes.
Motion passes. We've got discussion and possible decision regarding proposal from Fourth Infrastructure and Environment LLC to provide construction engineering services for the Centralia Water Treatment Plant Reservoir Bypass Project at cost not to exceed $17,500.
I'll make the motion that we approve both Infrastructure and Environment LLC to provide those services not to exceed $17,500.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. Any discussion?
Yeah, I know we got one more or two more items on the same thing. Are there going to be any other bypass items coming up, or is this it after tonight?
Specific to the Centralia plant?
Yes.
Oh, I don't know.
There's only one bypass.
I know, but we've talked about this multiple times and we've approved multiple things. That's why I'm asking, is there anything else that's going to come up for this?
Well,
Anyone here would know.
I mean, at the end of the day, one was the contract for the construction, one was for the engineering design, and they're giving us this information as they go along, so I don't anticipate,
Not sure.
I don't anticipate any additional expenses for this project, but I can't 100% promise because I'm not the engineer.
Okay, thank you.
Roll call, please.
Ron Dunwoody.
Yes.
Peter Harvey.
Yes.
Gary Payson Jr.
Yes.
Scott McClory.
Yes.
Ken Minell.
Yes.
Kurt Harkness.
Yes.
Motion passes. We've got discussion and possible decision regarding quotes for controls and programming services needed for the Centralia wastewater treatment reservoir, the bypass project.
And there was
Is this new equipment not included in the original quote?
Yeah, there's some reprogramming that I saw, and there's two different quotes, and there's a recommended
25 or 21 and
like $5,800
Yeah.
versus.
Yeah, so
So that.
the recommendation is from both is to accept the proposal for $5,500. They had a second quote for $20,000,
yeah.
yeah.
So the 5580. So, did someone make a motion? I will. Motion to approve at 5580.
Second.
We got a motion and a second. Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Gary Payson Jr.
Yes.
Peter Harvey.
Yes.
Ron Dunwoody.
Yes.
Scott McClory.
Yes.
Ken Minell.
Yes.
Kurt Harkness.
Yes.
Motion passes. We've got discussion and possible decision regarding purchase of mobile data terminals for the fire department. Chief, you got some info for us on this?
Yes, sir. So they're updating Pro Phoenix, which is our RMS system. I found out late December of last year that in 2023, they had notified departments they need to upgrade their MDTs. Ours currently don't have enough RAM to support Windows 11. All support is dropping for Windows 10, and then the new system update, it's going to require at least 16 gigs. Our current computers only have 8, and they're not upgradable.
How much does it cost?
What was that?
What's the cost? How many are we getting, and what's the cost?
We need one for each apparatus, and I think I put the quotes in there. One was at 18, one was at 25.
What's the difference? Was there one that had like a warranty or something like that?
That was the little Novo, sir. That was the $18,000, the cheaper quote.
So the cheaper quote and we get a better service?
Sorry.
That's okay. So the Lenovo is a less expensive, but we get better service, better
Correct.
warranties? And then we still need the universal mounts no matter what?
Correct, sir.
So your recommendation was that and, so the 19,381.93 is what you're recommending?
Yes, that was the cheaper one, the Lenovo's and the universal mounts, sir.
Sure, it's my motion then.
Second.
We got a motion and a second. My question is this in the budget? Was this planned?
It wasn't, oh, sorry.
Go
It wasn't-
ahead, Adam.
It wasn't planned, but Corey and I scoured the budget earlier. If you split it 50/50 between fire and EMS, because it sounds like they need basically 5 for one and 5 for the other, according to what the assistant chief told us. It's gonna be 10,000 for each, 10,000 for fire, 10,000 for EMS. So the short story is yes, there's room in their tools budget, if you will, to cover that cost. Plus there's $4,500 in grant money we get a year for, that they can contribute towards the EMS side of it. So yes, the answer is yes.
Okay, great, thank you. We got a motion and a second. Any other discussion?
Didn't you say we had an EMS fund, like 2.8 million in it? Or 2.3 or something? Can the money be taken from that fund? Is that possible? So it's not taken out of the firemen, out of their budget?
The problem is it's technically city cash, and so then you would be covering the portion of the cost that should be borne by the other jurisdictions. So that's the reason we're not suggesting using our cash reserves to cover the expense.
Okay. Can I have a roll call, please?
Gary Payson Jr.,
Yes.
Peter Harvey,
Yes.
Ron Dunwoody,
Yes.
Scott McClory,
Yes.
Ken Minot,
Yes.
Kurt Harkness.
Yes.
Motion passes. Discussion and possible decision on sale of excess radio equipment from the fire department.
So when they did the radios through the county, they ordered 55 portables. They ordered charging banks for every truck. We don't run a volunteer department anymore, everybody's career. We just have a bunch of excess equipment. And the thing is, a lot of the radios weren't dual banded, or some of them weren't tri-banded. Those upgrades need to be done, and with the sale of these to other fire departments in the county, we'd be able to fund the upgrades that should have been done in the first place. I have a couple departments that are interested in some of the equipment already. It has to, by ARPA, stay within the county because it was all part of that fund. Each truck was ordered a 6-bank charger for portable radios. We don't carry portable radios in the truck. Person carries them on them.
I would ask that the city administrator have oversight in the sale of all these items based on some past history, not necessarily involving the fire department. But I would be in favor of that otherwise, so it'd be my motion with that caveat.
Second.
I have a question. I think that we already have a policy in place that all things that are being sold that are city-owned have to go to wisconsinsurplus.com or whatever it's called. You just can't farm them out to municipalities within the county.
But these were part of the county communication changeover. So
I understand that.
Chief just said it's gotta stay in the county, though.
But that's still not using surplus.com to sell them. I think our policy says you have to use that entity. Am I correct?
Yes, I think so, but
So we give them all to them, and then if they want to sell them to Delavan PD or whatever, or Delavan FD, Delavan Fire Department, that's up to them. I don't think we can piecemeal them out by policy, unless you want to grant a waiver. I'll have to let Elaine or Adam, you know, like whenever anybody wants to sell like a squad car.
City's
Right.
losing money though, because of what the city is, so, they got like a 21% discount, the ARPA money was applied to it from the county when they did the grant, and then the city had that match.
Right. So
If we surplused them, we'd lose money.
Yeah, we
Again,
can't.
I think just to follow procedure, we better waive the policy or something.
Yeah, well, because it's federal funds, we have to be careful. We can't just let them be sold to anybody. Because they were using ARPA funds to purchase it, it
Okay.
needs to stay within the county.
Well, then I guess I would ask that
So,
whoever
yeah.
made the motion to amend it to waive the wisconsinsurplus.com we normally use and follow the ARPA thing.
I amend my motion to waive the surplus.com requirement.
I amend my second.
We can't use those anywhere else in the city? Like Public Works or?
Yeah, your ordinance isn't specific to surplus.com. It actually talks about other methods, including auction or donation to a nonprofit or sale by sealed bidder, negotiated sale. So you have some flexibility under your ordinance.
Okay.
My quick read, I'm not seeing a specific to surplus. I don't know if there's a separate written policy somewhere. I don't know the answer to that question.
I guess I'm just, from all of the previous sales, it almost seems like almost 99% of them we're giving them to surplus.com, whether it's a fire truck or a cop car or a DPW truck, it always goes to surplus.com. I didn't know if it was policy or ordinance driven, but I just
Definitely
wanted to make
standard.
sure we didn't misstep there.
Yeah, I don't know if it's policy driven, but it's just been standard practice.
Okay, fair enough.
But the motion takes care of that, right?
Yeah.
All right,
Okay.
then we're good.
Thank you.
Motion and a second, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. With the discussion and possible decision regarding payment application number 6 from Wilcomb Excavating and Grading for the 2024 East Centralia Street Reconstruction Project in the amount of $139,637.27.
Make a motion to approve.
Second.
Motion and second, any discussion?
Is this, how much is left on this project before it closes out?
20 grand.
Oh, sorry.
Go ahead.
Yeah, $20,000 in retainage. We are projecting to be about 161,000 under the contract amount, the construction contract amount, so that's a positive. And just a quick update, there's a little bit of restoration stuff that we'll be monitoring in the spring. Otherwise, we're closed up, so.
So the 20,000 retention is still comfortable to do those items?
Yeah, yep.
Okay. Thank you.
Roll call, please.
Scott McClory,
Yes.
Ron Dunwoody,
Yes.
Peter Harvey,
Yes.
Gary Payson Jr.,
Yes.
Ken Minell,
Yes.
Kurt Harkness.
Yes.
We've got a discussion and possible decision regarding procurement of a 3/4 ton regular cab, 4-wheel drive pickup truck for the DPW Parks and Streets pursuant to the 2025 CIP.
Make a motion to approve based on the recommendation of purchasing the truck in stock at the $50,115.50.
Second.
Got a motion and a second, any discussion?
Can we continue with internal outfitting of that truck up to the budgeted amount of 56,000?
Yes,
Thank you.
that's my amended motion.
Second amended.
All right, we've got an amended motion. Roll call, please.
Gary Payson Jr.,
Yes.
Peter Harvey,
Yes.
Ron Dunwoody,
Yes.
Scott McClory,
Yes.
Ken Minell,
Yes.
excuse me, Kurt Harkness.
Yes.
Motion passes. We've got discussion and possible decision regarding execution of a Wisconsin Urban Non-Point Source Water Pollution Abatement and Stormwater Management Grant Program Construction Grant Agreement for the Elkhorn Lake Bioretention Project.
I can take this one if you want a little bit more background. So as a part of our MS4 stormwater requirements, Kapoor's been looking at ways to meet our permit requirements. And this is a project that would allow us to do it. It's going to be an annual approach where we update the report and choose projects to help us meet the goals of the MS4 program. So we were able to obtain a grant for this project, and this is the agreement for that grant with DNR. It's a cost share, 41 cost share percentage.
Who's gonna oversee this? Who's gonna make sure that all the grant requirements and the deadlines and the dates and everything are kept? Is that Katie or somebody else?
Well, I'd say between Mike and myself.
Okay, again.
Kapoor and myself.
The only reason I ask is when I was at the county, I was the grant writer, and as Katie knows, you miss one deadline by 1 minute and there goes all your money. So I want to know somebody's on top, like the project manager, if you will,
Yeah,
for the record.
This was filled out by somebody else, actually, the application. We had somebody from Kapoor fill it out. They were more
Again,
familiar
that's
with it.
fine. I don't need the minutia. I just need to know someone is the project manager in case the state comes, the DNR or whoever comes calling. Thank you.
Make a motion to approve.
And I'll second.
Okay, we got a motion and a second. Any further discussion?
Oh, sorry, it's the next thing up there, isn't it? The
The next
actual
item
resolution?
basically is resolution
Yeah.
number 2025-606.
There are two different things, right?
Say it again?
Versus the,
You gotta have one before the other.
Are they two different things?
They're technically two, but the intent was that you would just pass a resolution.
Right.
Because the resolution was referencing the agreement, so
Right.
whether you want to approve them individually or just approve them as one motion, that's fine, but.
My motion is to
Cal-
approve resolution 2025-06 then.
Just as an FYI, though, there needs to be some revisions to that resolution, which are redlined up above, just because we need to clarify that, let me as a backup. The state gave Matt a template. The template that Matt used didn't actually accomplish what it was that supposedly the resolution was supposed to do, which was to set forth. No, I'm serious.
Of course not.
The
Why would the government give you something that could help you?
The resolution says it was supposed to declare the city's share in the resolution, but it didn't actually do that. So we had to amend it. Anyway, so the numbers you see up there are actually trying to set forth what the actual costs are. So anyway, it's basically just saying that the total project cost is 278, our share would be 167.5, and that the DNR share would be the 111, which as Matt said was 41%. So
And the money is,
yes, we budgeted, the city budgeted 167 for the year, yeah.
So-
Or not for this year, but for 2026.
so my motion is with the red line.
the resolution as amended.
Yes, there you go. Thank you.
And I'll amend my second.
We have another amended motion.
See how many we
We're on
can
a
do
roll
already.
here. Any further discussion?
Good Lord, no.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Resolution 2025-06 as amended passes. So I've got to read the closed session stuff. The common council may entertain a motion to go into closed session pursuant to Wisconsin statute sections 19.851E to deliberate an offer from Jane Wagner to donate a property at 401 North Wisconsin Street to the city of Elkhorn. The common council may entertain a motion to go into closed session pursuant to Wisconsin statute sections 19.851E to conduct other specified public business whenever competitive or bargaining reasons require. Common council may entertain a motion to go into closed session pursuant to Wisconsin statute sections 19.851C to consider employment or performance evaluation data of any public employee over which the governmental body has jurisdiction or exercise responsibility. And the common council may entertain a motion to go into closed session pursuant to Wisconsin statutes sections 19.851B to consider dismissal, demotion, or discipline of any public employee. Can I have a motion to go into closed session?
Second.
Motion is second, all in favor?
Oh, you gotta do roll call.
Oh, roll call, that's absolutely right. Thank you,
Before we
Gary.
go into closed session, we need a bathroom break.
Yeah, well, they'll be working on the walls.
Yeah, I'm just saying, so we can all get 5 minutes.
All right.
We're gonna go.
So don't lock us out.
Gary Payson Jr.,
Yes.
Peter Harvey, Ron Dunwoody, Scott McClory,
Yes.
Ken Minell,
Yes.
Kurt Harkness.
Yes.
All right, we're back in open session, whatever time it is, 8:45, which is a new record.
Still on?
Must be.
Still, 2/19/2025?
We've got a discussion of possible decision regarding a proposed contract with the municipal code enforcement for provision of zoning administration and code enforcement services. Do I have a motion?
Yes, I make a motion to have the administration work with
municipal code enforcement on a new contract with some provisions and some additions that we talked about in closed session.
And to authorize the administrator to finalize the contract?
And authorize the administrator to finalize the contract.
I'll second.
Got a motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes.
Yeah, item A.
Item A was no action.
Okay.
Item C and D were no action.
Okay, perfect.
Motion to adjourn?
We gonna adjourn?
Yep. We got a second?
He said second.
Okay, we've got a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? We're adjourned.